I didn't even know where to even start. I guess if I just shoot from the hip, mortality. Because I didn't talk about it last podcast, right? Like I said, you didn't even know, like people dying, coming and going and stuff, especially when they're close to you. And if you are aware, you'll think about your own mortality in relation to when they lost theirs. But when we think of death, obviously we think like the lights are, at least for me, typically the lights are like cut off. But life expands more than the material world, What if he's living, what if like my cousin who died is living even more now? Sounds far-fetched, right? Because, you're in the ground and you're not moving or breathing, but none of us know what's on the other side. I mean, I don't, at least. I mean, niggas are making claims about it, and those are the ones that worry me. Hey, I know what's going to happen. No, the fuck you don't.
When somebody got all the answers, I start to feel like they got none. Like, you can't know every single truth in life. I know everything and can be explained if you just buy my book. For $25.99, and then buy my second book and the third one, because the first one didn't get it all, but it's a pyramid scheme.
We should rip on religion more, to be honest. Like, the fuck are you guys thinking? I literally had a conversation with someone who was an educated teacher who genuinely believed that the earth was 6,000 years old. Like genuinely believe it. Like they weren't trolling.
How can that type of academic exist in the same atmosphere as like a Neil deGrasse Tyson?
What do you mean?
We have people thinking the earth is flat.
No, but can you unpack that? Like, I still don't even understand.
There's. You said the person is a what?
Christian, right? So she believes that the earth is 6,000 years old. But I know and believe, even though I haven't done the scientific method myself, by seeing how it's done about radiocarbon dating, that the universe itself is 13.6, 13.8 billion years old, and Earth is 4.6 billion years old. So how the fuck?
Yeah, where did you meet this person?
Like originally Tinder, but she came over.
But you said they're a teacher.
Yeah, Christian
right.
teacher.
So I meant in the academic space, that a teacher could be in the same
Christian school, bro.
The same circle as, because I consider Neil deGrasse Tyson a teacher.
Yes.
But like, there's no way, because literally his show Cosmos talks about billions of Earth being billions of years old.
With science and stuff.
So you think that they should not be allowed to be a teacher?
No, I just find it fascinating that
they can exist in the same spaces.
That both,
because bro, there are private schools of religious schools. So you guys met this person. They are Christian. They live in Texas, like conservative. But we had this conversation. I had this conversation with other people. And I'm like, have you ever heard of radiocarbon dating? And like a lot of black people, bro, older black, bro. I realized, bro, you can barely win arguments. You're not going to win much arguments with older black people, especially women from the South. Like, god damn, bro.
That's a conversation in and of itself too. People talk about, black people are still, or got a bad case of Stockholm syndrome.
What is Stockholm syndrome again? So we can just let our audience know. I can Google it as well.
I can Google it, but my definition is like being Stockholm syndrome's having affection towards your captor, basically.
Like survivor's guilt. Okay, no.
Like having feelings, or
Yeah, feelings of trust or affection felt in many cases of kidnapping or hostage taking by victim toward a captor. So, like, this bitch chained me up for like a month, but now I'm actually starting to get close to you. Yeah. But where's the responsibility in them taking control of their trauma? Yes, you've been manipulated, sure, but
bro, these are like years of generational things happening.
Oh yes, with the black community.
Yeah,
yes,
and it's hard for people to try to look at that. That's what's that term called, when you're given new information and you're kind of in the belief cognitive dissonance. And it's just hard. Like you're literally asking someone to unlearn
beliefs that's related to their identity.
Yeah, bro.
Like, bro, I had this conversation with my coworker. She's a great woman. She's 61, 62, and I'm Gracie. In the South, Mississippi, you know, she picked cotton. You know, she's seen a lot of shit go down. She's seen, like, the color and whites, like, fountains. That was in her lifetime. Mm-hmm. So, on the one end, she's like a bitter, older black woman who, you know, sometimes gives people a short leash when it comes to her patience with them. Mm-hmm. You know, but I understand as well that she's been traumatized, that she's seen a lot of stuff. You know, so her patience, like, even with, like, me, she called me Uncle Tom. You know, and like, we have our good moments too and shit, and we clash heads, but I'm learning so much as well. But, you know, I try to tell her a definition on Google about gossiping, because, you know, she talks like, you know, like one of those church ladies, you know, this guy gossip all the time. Mm-hmm. Gossiping doesn't mean you just telling lies. You can be telling the truth, but you're spreading information amongst people. Showed her the definition on, like, Google. She's like, I don't believe that. You know what? That's always right. I'm like, damn. I'm like, yes, Google is manipulated, clearly, but damn, not even Google. You know, like, you know, this shit's serious.
Yeah, bro, cognitive dissonance is a real thing. I remember I told my my grandma that, you know, the Rosa Parks incidents was actually staged, and she didn't believe that.
It was. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it didn't have. It wasn't random. Oh, yeah. You know. But I'm talking about, like, because they had, like, cameras and press there, you know, and on purpose to, you know, to get publicity. I mean, not saying that it takes away from the, you know, the
but
action of the event.
But it was definitely coordinated.
Right.
Wasn't it like a single mother who was originally going to plan on doing it, but they didn't want to do it for optics' sake, and so they used Rosa Parks, who would be more of like a respectable type person? I remember hearing something like that. It's either like somebody who had, like, they're like, oh, well, they'll just call her a slut. You know, they'll just call her, like, some crazy bitch. You know? And
Jezebel.
Looking at those, like, optics of, like, okay, yeah, she's someone we can put forward. Maybe she'll find sympathy.
You know, now I want to start calling certain women Jezebel and see if they'll understand if I call them a slut. From the 60s.
I think we should talk about slut shaming.
Yeah. What do you feel about it? Or, yeah, how do you guys feel about it?
Like being promiscuous, is that the word?
Yeah, so when you, like, having sex with people because, you know, that's your inclination, you know. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I feel like, at least based off this book I'm reading I was reading a while back called Ethical Slut. You know, it's more geared towards embracing being a slut, or just not slut shaming. So, like, ethical slut, just being not being ashamed for
living their sexuality.
What gives you pleasure? You know,
experience your sexuality. Because guys, we're not ashamed for it.
Right.
Like, I know this. You know, like, damn, bro. So the book sounds like it gives certain women, or no, even better, hoes boundaries to be aware with their hoery and to be okay with it, because, you know, it makes them happy and fuck what other people think. I don't know. I haven't read the book. That's just what I got from what you were talking about.
I think people just spend too much time judging other people, and, like, where for some people it could be an addiction. Sex addiction is a real thing that you can use to kind of cover over other things, but, like, also, like, so are many other things. We talked about addictions and habits last week. You know, who are we to judge on somebody's stuff? For what I look at it, as long as, like, you know, if somebody's being dishonest, that's a separate issue. It's not the fact about you being a slut, right? It's about you not having honesty. You know what I mean? So that's what I look at with cheating. People will be like, oh, she's just a fucking whore.
Can we get a real example? So, like, say, for example,
if somebody cheats on you, right? Like, I look at that where it's like, the bad part of that action is not just the fact where it's like, okay, like, you were a slut here. It was the fact that you're being if you're in a monogamous relationship and you cheat on somebody, then you are lying, you're breaking your promise, you're doing all these other things. And don't get me wrong, the sex is bad there too, but it's like, if you, like, the action of sleeping with somebody is not in and of itself bad.
Yeah, bro. I think you're saying that some people would say that cheating is more emotional than sexual or physical because of those steps. Think about it, bro, because of trust, if someone knows. you're
I've
choosing.
heard men have really interesting ideas of the intimacy levels of cheating. I've heard men say that they would rather have a girl cheat on them and have sex than have a girl cheat on them and give a blowjob. And I don't understand that
Oh yeah,
distinction.
yeah. Think about it. Sucking dick is way worse. Think about it. That's the ultimate form of submission, of you pleasuring like your man and my opponent. Like yeah, the pussy's important. Obviously, pussy can't be like whatever place. But if you get on your knees and you suck another nigga off, and I kiss you and shit, and his dick was in your mouth, and you look me in my fucking eye,
but if she fucks somebody and there's a dick in her pussy and then you put your dick,
that's okay.
there was another dick there.
But the face.
What about it? I'm gonna let you know I do not understand this, and I'm not sure you're gonna be able to explain.
I think there's an element of the fact where it's like, okay, like it's not even the fact that you're going out there and getting like, if you're just giving a blowjob, you're not even going out there and getting an orgasm out this shit. You're just going out this shit and doing this shit for somebody else and making them shit come and doing this shit and being like, oh, here you go for free.
Give them blowjobs.
Yes, they do, absolutely. But typically, when a girl sucks dick, even though they're socially pressured to suck dick, then guys to eat pussy and shit, but they're socially pressured to because like an expectation of sex.
What?
Women are socially pressured to suck dick and sex more than guys are socially pressured to eat pussy. At least I think that. So,
Bro, what do you mean by socially pressured?
there's a societal
I think
expectation.
it's changing more and more.
Yeah, it's changing, right? Like, oh, you're gonna eat my pussy and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends.
People will still be out there and be like, oh, I don't eat pussy, that shit gross. But how many girls are going to be like out there saying like, oh shit, I'll never give somebody head or something
But
like
listen,
that.
how far would she get though? That's what I'm saying. How far would she get? If you ain't sucking no dick, how far you gonna get?
It's all contingent on the circle or culture you run in, because
United States culture,
I believe.
hell, Muslims getting their dick sucked, bro.
Yeah, we're not saying like that there aren't areas of this country where like different, that's all equal. Like, and that's not saying that we aren't like treating that shit equal. It's just saying that like a lot of America would still look at that shit, and just because like dealing with the patriarchy that we live in today, it still is more like of that element of like, oh, you did all this, like, but in the essence, it's like it's just an orgasm,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you guys see why? Like, I mean, because like I don't even know how I feel about it completely, right? Because I was with a woman that I love, and we were in an agreed upon monogamous relationship. Would I feel worse if she just had vaginal sex with this person, or if she just sucked some dick? Let me think about it. I'm trapping myself in that position, and especially if I stayed faithful.
You said would you feel
worse, right? Like, which one would I be able to even rank them, right? Would I be able to rank my girlfriend cheating on me with vaginal sex with someone, or oral sex with someone?
But your boundary is,
if I was monogamous.
And you're talking about like a logical response, and he's talking about an emotional response. Which one would you feel worth, even though you're recognizing both are like cheating?
Yeah, both are clearly cheating if it's an agreed upon monogamous relationship. What I'm trying to say is that would I feel any worse or less if it was just vaginal sex?
Why does it matter if
because
how
it does.
worse you feel, because the hurt is already done by the act.
Some people measure it, bro.
Some people measure it.
I measure
and actually,
shit.
a lot of people
I measure
do.
shit, bro.
I had like 500 men crawling out of the woodwork on Twitter trying to tell me that there's a difference, and it is an important difference.
Yes.
From getting
I'm like,
head.
There's
and
levels to
getting
this
a
shit.
blowjob.
There's levels to the disrespect,
and
bro.
they're both cheating, but they were like, yeah, but this one's cheating
why measure
worse.
it though? Because they already cheated.
Agreed. In
We
that
know
sense.
the logic isn't there. This is
Well,
all
actually, there is
emotion.
logic there, bro, because people prioritize their pain.
Oh, true.
People
True.
prioritize their preference, their dislike. So why couldn't
But it's based off the emotions that's coming there. The pain off pain.
But I just think
dislike,
it's
those
silly
are-
to be like, damn, she gave him head. I feel bad, or I don't know. Maybe I'm being too logical about it, and
I mean, I agree with you. At the end of the day, it is the same thing.
I just feel like
you still can't trust her if it's in a monogamous relationship, right? You know, in that sense, right? So no matter what, the result is the same, but maybe the sting, or maybe one is more degrading than the other.
I guess I can see.
Which would feel worse if you get punched twice or kicked twice?
Kicks are way harder.
You know what I'm saying? Or like something like that. Like it's still
Depends
you're
on the
getting hit.
person.
It's still bad.
True.
But you might have a different response.
I
to
get it.
that.
I remember. Okay, so like it's like it's like your girl cheating on you, or your man cheating on you with another man.
Oh, some girls I hate that. Like, nigga,
or-
you gay too? You
or
a
what
down
if-
low brother?
Yeah, and then they
what if
never
you're-
trust him again.
Like I can like I'm not trying to ask the only girl, but like just thinking like
Cursed by having tits.
would it make a difference if someone cheated like the gender?
I'm not your girl for this one. I'm gonna let you know for several reasons.
I don't even know what my question is. I'm just talking.
Well, I'm just gonna let you know I'm not good at this game because I'm polyamorous. I'm bi.
You're not a good person.
Like I'm not a. You don't want to ask me this question.
Or like what y'all
I mean, y'all seen that video where they're asking people like, would you rather find out your man was bisexual or cheating on you?
Yeah.
And
I
there was
remember
like
that.
it was like 50-50.
It was 50. There was a lot of people saying I would rather he cheat
can be bisexual.
than be bisexual.
I mean, because
So it
there's some
doesn't mean you
people.
necessarily are cheating.
It's about preference, bro. At the end of the day, and
What
that's what
does a
people don't want to accept.
bisexual person's preference have to do with anything if you're in a monogamous relationship with the opposite gender?
I mean, preference with everybody. So, for example, if I'm in any type of relationship with someone and we have rules, right? Because, you know, and say like I could, you know, see who I want, but I got to okay it with that person, vice versa. Like one of those open relationships. You know, like, yeah, y'all never heard those? Like, you know, where people will be like, hey, I think he's cute, or I think she's cute, you know, would it be okay, you know, and they ask like the girlfriend, the girlfriend be like no or yes. That shit does, those relationships does like
There's
exist.
many types of polyamorous relationships.
So what I'm saying though is bi, gay, whatever sexual orientation, I really believe it's really left up to preference. What do preference of desire, preference of, you know, how you don't want to be disrespected, how you perceive those lines will be crossed. Expectations, like obviously there's no one glove fits all, and if we know that, you know your partner, it is important to understand your partner and what will trigger them the most.
Is that not kind of a similar form of slut shaming?
What do you mean?
Like if we're talking about slut shaming, like for example, like just on the example, the comparative baggage you're bringing into a relationship, right? It's baggage in quotes, right? Somebody could be like, oh no, you slept with this many people. How am I going to measure up? You know, and that affects them, right? Or somebody else would be like, oh, you're bisexual. You slept with the same gender. How will I ever be able to, you know what I mean? Like somebody could have those same things. And at the same time, you're both worried about someone else's orientation decisions. And especially, I think the thing with that question was, not would you rather somebody cheat on you, like your man cheat on you with a guy or with a girl, but it was would you rather somebody cheat on you or be bisexual. Bisexual does not indicate any action has been taken. You know, like that's just an action where it's like that
Automatically
could be a thought,
people think it though.
They do.
They assume that it's a conclusion of it, which in fact it is for the most part it is, unless you're bisexual / asexual.
No, it's not.
I mean, for the most common person, it is. Perception's
no.
reality.
Wait,
if you're
wait. Are you
masquerading,
saying that? Wait, what are you saying?
yeah, I don't even remember.
It sounded like you were trying to say that bisexual people are more inclined to be unfulfilled by one sex.
What did I actually? Oh no! I said if bisexual people can be asexual or something, then that's one thing. But I was saying that it is a conclusion in people's mind that if I know that Ray likes boys and girls, that I'm going to assume at some point, even if he's going to fuck a boy. And then if I have a preference of like how I treat gay people, even if he didn't even do it, the label itself, right?
It can like spark the bigotry.
So you have a certain way you treat gay people?
I'm not saying me personally, but I was using that as like an example.
If you feel that way about gay people, and then you find out that your partner also likes men, it can interact with that predisposition of being homophobic.
But in that same example, pointing to Ray's example again, oh, Ray like women, that means he's going to cheat on me.
Yeah, that's what I don't get.
No,
I mean, like, there's like, just because someone like likes something doesn't mean necessarily they have to do it, right? Like, there are certain things where it's like if you are in a committed relationship, you might like women, you might see women that you like, but if you are in a monogamous relationship, that's still off limits.
I know.
Just like if you're in a polyamorous relationship where you're just saying like only same sex, whatever like that, and then they do it and they go on and do it, then that would be breaking the agreement because that's breaking the consent there.
I hear you, bro. If I'm homophobic and I'm with a girl and she has a past as a lesbian, I don't know it, and I'm homophobic towards lesbians for whatever reason, and I didn't know it until X amount of time, she told me, I still have my feelings towards it, right? Most people were like, whoa, you're that? I mean, like, yes, we share these moments like we did that, but should I feel tricked? Yeah, I can't. I can only speak for myself, and even then, that's not how I would actually go about it, to be fair. I'm just saying that there's people out there that think like that, and I think it's a healthy majority of them.
Oh, yeah.
Which is called...
To Tyshawn's point, I'll back you up on here. There's a lot of people who are biphobic, and it's not just straight people. It happens a lot. Again, I pissed off so many lesbians the other day. It happens a lot in the lesbian community. A lot of lesbians really do not like bi girls. A lot of gay guys really do not like bi men. Bisexuals get it kind of from both sides, where we're not gay enough for the gays, but we're not straight enough for the straights, and so everybody just thinks we're gonna cheat on them.
Like the mixed kid.
It's like the mixed kid.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, then that's people's preference infused with their insecurities.
Ooh, insecurities.
And that's okay, because every human has one, and when you're more aware of the things that you're more inclined to being hurt to, and if you can communicate those things to the best of your ability to your partner and people who handles your heart and emotions like on a daily basis, I feel like personally it's helpful not to have the expectation that they would never hurt you, because that's life. Now it's about how they hurt you, which is why I say it's levels to this shit. So if you did something that wasn't like nefarious, like you're literally trying to hurt me, like fuck me over, that's like one thing. But you just happen to hurt my feelings by telling me the truth about myself. It's like, okay, it's levels to this shit. And I feel like, and I'm trying to bash on women, but like I feel like a lot of women, they don't have to differentiate that level engaging of like leveling of warfare, emotional like conflict, because they don't necessarily deal with that low level threat of violence compared to like man, in a sense. So like for one, what I mean by low level threat of violence, like me and Tim and Ravon, we can speak to each other in like a certain way, right? But if we start getting disrespectful with each other, calling you a bitch, coward, talking about like our family and shit, right? We all know with each other there's still a low level threat of violence that we could potentially fuck each other up, and that's at least that's how I see it. And with women, traditionally, how like society molded like the roles, you guys been more in tune to use that mouthpiece more, because the physical power isn't as like there necessarily, or necessarily as encouraged to be used, right? And the dynamic's different. So you be seeing girls just say whatever the fuck that comes to their mind.
I don't think that's the case, mostly because of what you're saying and the fact that we aren't socially encouraged to do violence. And so there's a better term than female warfare, but a lot of female warfare is manipulation. It's mental, it's mind games, right? So we can't just say shit, because if you just say shit, you could be caught in a female mental war game for the next 8 years.
I mean, with who? Because I feel like
with
y'all
each
do
other.
I'm talking with men. Dealing
with
with
men?
men,
Oh,
y'all
that's
just
a
say
whole
shit.
different
Y'all say
thing.
whatever the fuck comes to, like,
Not
for the most part.
necessarily, because men can fucking kill women.
But like,
and do.
Some aren't worried about it. Some don't think about it.
Some think if
just
they're
say whatever.
loud, if they're big enough, if they put you off, you'll want to make a scene and you won't hit them. But no, violence is always on the table for every woman. I promise you that.
I mean, yes, domestic violence does exist.
It's
Right.
not even just domestic.
No, I know, but like,
I've known
I wanna,
people who've been like hit by strangers at a bar.
Yeah, I hear about those stories. That does exist, but I feel like with men, there's a different type of thing to it. Like,
No,
for example, for example, I can ask you. You guys are walking and like down the street. You get into a heated argument with a man or a woman. Which one more are you gonna have more physical awareness to? Simple as that. Which one are you gonna have like more physical defense awareness to?
With the man.
Like, come on now. Like most people, I really believe, would say that.
Right, but then if a woman in that same situation is going to be more defensive physically with a man than she is going to be from a woman.
What do you mean?
In that same situation, if a man and a woman are walking down the street, you're less there's less threat of violence for you as the man because you're with a woman, but a woman is going to feel that violence more, the threat of violence, the anticipation of violence. She's going to feel that more.
Should be more vulnerable.
She's going to feel the
It's
threat
the exact
of
same thing.
Yeah.
Vulnerable to the threat of violence.
It's the same thing. So the threat of
exact same
violence
thing what you're saying.
is honestly, in my opinion, always there. But I do think that the modes that we go about navigating it are different in a masculine versus feminine.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, yes, like that low level threat of violence or fear is there for women. If you acknowledge that, some women feel more defenseless against men than women, right? Then we're really getting somewhere. We're making progress.
Yeah, but isn't that what we just said?
That's what we just said.
That's what we just said. You said you're more defensive to a man than a woman, and a woman is more
Defensive
towards a man than a woman. It's the same
Because
thing.
we know that men.
Okay. Hold on. Let's ride that then. If that's the case, bro, I mean, should transgenders be in sports?
What the fuck? What the fuck?
Hey, it's also a question.
I'm glad you said that because I actually wanted to talk about a turf.
Oh, trans exclusionary feminist, radical
Anybody know?
feminist.
It's turf stands for, or
I got you.
you don't have to. TERF stands for trans exclusionary radical feminist.
Mm-hmm. I'm listening.
And
J.K. Rowling.
if a person supports the LGBTQ but don't support trans people, they're trans exclusionary radical feminists.
Oh my God.
Well, they're trans exclusionary.
In the concept of feminism, they wouldn't consider a trans woman as a real woman.
They would not.
Even another
That's
level.
trans exclusionary.
Even another level too. Even
hold
within
on.
like a trans community, there will be people who will say that like, if you are self-identifying as being trans without being diagnosed or having gender dysmorphia, you're appropriating trans culture.
Let me diagnose. These doctors don't know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to identity.
But like that's what I'm saying. Like, is there gender dysphoria has been in the DSM for a while, right? But like a lot of trans people will say that you don't like. There are some people who have gender dysmorphia and are trans, and there's some people who do not have gender dysmorphia and they're trans. And some trans people will say that, and they'll be like I'm living through this. The fact that you're like, oh, I don't got nothing, but I'm this. It feels like you're.
Yeah, bro. That's so problematic, bro. On so many levels. Reason why? Reason number one, because it's subjective. No, it's relativism, really at its core. Who the fuck is gonna diagnose me and judge our mental capacities of our quote unquote identity towards our gender? And there's benchmarks. Who makes that decision?
Like any mental health thing.
Okay, which is why, bro, I actually wrote a book, the myth of mental illness. Not our book, but like a paper, bro. A lot of stuff, which we were talking about later, earlier, about dealing with anxiety, depression. Everybody deals with it. Some people deal with it more than others, right? I agree with. I want to finish. Some people agree with it more than other, bro. But it's too big of an incentive for these pharmaceutical companies to dose these people up instead of just coming into terms with your fucking humanity.
I think you're doing two things here, though. I think you're, on one hand, you're saying that everybody has anxiety, everybody deals with this, right? Everybody does get anxiety. It is a normal thing. But to have an anxiety disorder is kind of like having an allergy, in which the anxiety is functioning way more than it needs to. Like having an allergy is like when your immune system attacks random shit way more than it needs to and blows up like your arm or your throat or like whatever. It's kind of like that in the brain when you have a mental disorder that's like anxiety or depression. It's like you're feeling these feelings that are definitely normal, and you feel them on a spectrum, but it's overacting and it's causing issues. So I think that it is real. But I also know that capitalism does have a really weird relationship to the therapy setting, the whole mental health setting.
Here you go. You have this, you have that. We're getting paid.
Yeah.
Because you're too fucking lazy to do some self-investigation into your own fucking soul, so you take these fucking pills, what they tell you what you have, instead of dealing with your fucking shit. That's the core of it.
Okay,
No,
but there is a level
you're
of
making a
like,
jump here.
That is the jump.
There is a jump, and I'm gonna point on that
winners
specifically.
and the losers,
Specifically,
literally.
man. Like, okay, when we're talking about that, it's like the same thing as you talking about health, right? Yes, there are things that you can do to improve your health, to have general wellness and wholeness. You know what I'm saying? Like, we talking about that SPIRE concept that you were saying, spiritual, physical. I remember there's 3 other ones in that video, but I forgot them all right now. But regardless of that, like, there are things that you can do to be healthier. But does that mean that you would be like, oh, but don't get surgery? Be like a fucking Mennonite in the 1890s who are like, surgery is of the devil and we should kill the witches.
You literally cannot compare physical fucking surgery to
look at all the fucking CTE people in
Why
the
not?
fucking football players who are having that shit from the physical trauma.
Listen. CTE happens from impact of concussion, a physical thing of impact, bro. When it comes to our inclinations of our emotions,
what does it affect? Does it affect the hormones in our brains? Does it have affect the levels that are going in those shits? If you're having a mental illness, you have the same symptoms of the mismanagement of your emotions, your hormones, and everything in the same way as someone who is CTE. It messes with the production of that. So even though it's a physically based trauma,
the person with CTE has less control.
I think that's just an opinion.
The person with CTE has less control.
I feel like you just respect it more.
I feel like there's a lot of people, listen, don't get me wrong. Those people do exist where their shit's up to the max with dealing with their anxiety, depression. I met them. I was with one of them, right? I was like, damn, I can never understand. Why are you so fucking negative all the time? Why are you sad all the time? Why would you let your boss talking shit to you ruin your whole fucking day? This person doesn't even know you, right? And I try to, really grapple with that. What do they deal with? And I know that there's some things there that we have predisposed genetically. Hormones does happen physically that affects our emotions. I also believe there's will and there's fucking spirit. I really do. And that's the thin line between the people who live in victimhood and accountability of taking control of what they can take control over. There's some people who can make that rational choice of consciousness. I was saying, you know what? I've been feeling a lot of fear lately. I've been sweating lately. I've been very, very worried, and I don't even know why. Right? Oh, wait. I actually question why. Maybe I do some investigation with it.
I think it's really disingenuous to think that most people don't do that.
I don't. I
think that's really disingenuous.
I feel like a lot of people are fucking lazy. I feel like a lot of people are fucking
Well, that's on you. That's
victims.
on you thinking that humanity is lazy, but that's not on people.
It's Amazon, literally. We don't got to hunt for our food no more.
Taking pills, taking drugs, going to therapy isn't the easier way out.
And I necessarily think, okay, fair that you say that, but it's convenient.
I think what's convenient is what's letting it happen and not taking any action to make it better.
Nobody
what
said that.
People are doing when they go to therapy or decide that they need to be medicated or do that process is they are recognizing the fact that something is wrong. They don't know what else to do. They've tried what they can try. It's not getting better. They need help. So that is actually a form of taking action. What I think is even lazier is recognizing the fact that you're fucked up and not doing anything about it, not taking any action to change your own behaviors and just letting it happen and being like, but it's okay.
And not taking personal responsibility for that. In the same way as somebody who is like on dialysis, right? And they are doing the medical treatment. They could still be drinking and smoking and shit, and they're fucking themselves up worse, right? If you're getting the treatment, but you also need to take personal responsibility for your actions and recognize that if I am doing these choices that is going to negatively affect me, this therapy that I'm doing, whether that's a physical therapy or like a mental therapy, will do something, but it won't necessarily do what it's supposed to, because a pill is part of the thing. It's to relieve the symptoms. It's not there to heal you. It's not there to make you whole. It's not there to make you perfect.
And that's
a lot
where
of people
I think
do get
that's
caught
the
in that
mistake.
trap. And I'll agree
More
with you.
people,
And that's the problem about marketing
people
meds.
than less caught in that trap.
But that's what I'm saying.
You know,
Focus on the marketing meds. I'm not
so-
focusing on people just stunning off that shit.
I mean, more people than less falls into that trap. And I also believe, that society enables that.
Oh,
you know, and we get caught in that because I'm not saying you should not seek help if you really feel like you need help. I would never say no crazy shit like that. What I'm saying is, understand the difference between you letting go of the fucking rope and you not doing the fucking emotional work of investigating your own fucking traumas and understanding who you are as yourself and being accountable to the circumstances that you can control, while coupling, therapy and medication. A lot of people just escape into those. I really believe a lot of people don't do the work.
True, but where do we start this conversation by saying depression and anxiety don't really exist as a real concept compared to any type of physical thing, right?
Well, it's part of the human inclination, what I'm arguing.
Yeah, there's levels to it, just like it's part of human inclination to get cancer.
You can overdose on water?
I mean, yes,
we're 80% water. You can drink too much water and kill yourself.
I don't know how that has to do with the human inclination.
Well, we have anxiety. It can still kill you.
I mean, everything can kill you.
Exactly.
Everything can kill you. I guess.
Yeah, it's still part of the inclination, but it can still be disordered. It can still be a problem.
Listen, I do agree with you guys that, there's people out there who need these services and that should use these services, right? That's not where, I'm dying on the hill. I guess what I'm saying personally is that I've been there. I've been in the dark place before. I may be dealing with some mental, quote unquote, health issues myself, right? I'm talking about, I've been on the verge, and I know everybody's experience is different. It's uniquely, set up for them. So I cannot just say that what works for me works for everyone else, right? I wouldn't be that ignorant. However, I do know that there's moments in our lives where we can choose to fucking fight, take control of what we can take control over. There's a 99% of the universe we can't control. But I really believe we are in control of our own emotions. It gets influenced, but at the end of the day, we make that choice over ourselves, free will. And if we're willing to give up the concept of free will, completely, that people don't make their choices, because certain things are a choice. Like I said, I can actually some people who got that shit turned up more, then we lose something, because we weren't relying on this shit 100 X amount of years ago, and obviously doesn't mean that it's bad or worse. It's better. I was in therapy for 6 months actually when Molly left me. The first time I ever went to therapy ever in my life, and the only time. I don't know if I ever told you guys this. And I remember, bro, when I was hitting her up and shit. One thing she had said to me was there's you're not really open up to me a lot. I don't feel like she said something along those lines. You didn't really open up to me a lot, blah, 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 but I think you should go to therapy, and I thought it was like, as like an insult. 4 months later, I did, and I changed my first therapist because she was like a black woman, and like I was turned off by it, because obviously, I needed some potential minor sexual attraction to even vent to you. It was some weird shit, bro.
You're not attracted to black women?
No, I fuck black women. Have you seen my African ex-girlfriend?
You just said that. No, never mind. I don't want to follow this. Actually, I don't care.
Let's not.
But that's kind of interesting because usually people of color will want a person of color as their therapist.
I wanted someone that kind of reminded me of my ex-bitch a little bit. I don't know. Shit was stupid.
Damn, so you really changed your therapist because...
Bro, shit was savage. Yeah, bro. Like, I literally was with her one day, and she was like an older black woman. She was super cool, nice, professional, but it just didn't resonate, bro. It really didn't. I was like, because like I feel like I was talking to my mom, my sister. It was just different. It was just different.
I think that's also just kind of like a lens of like the intimacy allowed by like men. A lot of times,
yes,
a lot of times it's exclusively related to like sex. But yeah, kind of bringing it back. There's a difference between like when you're saying when you put the chips on the table, you got to figure out what you can do, what's in your control. At the same time, though, is yes, that is important. The self-responsibility, self-importance is there, but we also have people there to help us. There's also people that are professionals. There are mentors in our life. There are resources in our life, and you have to be able to use those and not waste them, not just be like, you carry me and do everything for me, but also, and not let the fact that you don't have one at a time be an excuse. But at the same time is you have to do your own work. It's the same reason why I think there's a big problem with people who I self-identify with mental illnesses, in the sense of like, oh, I'm sad, I'm depressed now. And it's the terms depression and anxiety as a first place. They're stupid fucking terms, because major depressive disorder is nothing like when somebody's just like, I'm depressed for this reason. A lot of times, like, talking with people who like, like, who either have been diagnosed or saying this, the thing that I always hear is that depression for a reason is different than a major depressive disorder, where something that lasts for a significant period of time, where there's not any specific cause of it, where like changing to a better situation in life don't necessarily respond to it. And I think that there's important to draw lines with it. Because I agree that, like, there are definitely a lot of people who would just be like, well, shit, I got to have something to explain why I don't do this. I'm going to look up what mental illness is, and I'm going to see 5 definitions of it. And like,
I'm depressed and I'm bisexual.
It's the same way as, like, when you take those fucking quizzes in those magazines, and you're like, which sign are you? Which mental illness are you today? And people wear those labels based on something that they don't necessarily know. And so I have a lot of respect for mental illness as what they are, but my thing is that, for one, therapy is too hard to get into for most people because it's not fucking cheap, and there's a lot of barriers to getting into that.
I was lucky to have insurance, bro, because I was not going to, I had to pay a dime.
I think the fact that you actually have somebody who is qualified in order to do that and to recognize the difference between someone who is depressed at the moment versus someone who has major depressive disorder is important, because the merging of those lines makes it a reason why I completely understand why you're saying a lot of people who just say that they're depressed, it's like, look, come on, just, do some shit. People do need to take responsibility.
And I also, from listening to you both, take with some of your soliloquies of just like, saying that there are people who do need those services and help, and if you can use them in a proper way that helps you be more aware of yourself, then you should definitely, seek out those services. I will also say, we're acknowledging that there's people who's not willing to do the work.
But you can't acknowledge their self-awareness and then tell them that they're not doing the work.
Bro, it's difference between being self-aware and not doing the work. I can be self-aware that I have self-sabotaging natures in me.
Do people
but am I working on it? Right?
Yeah, not try to change.
Am I working on it?
But I think it's weird to say, like, it's an easy way out, that it's not even an option for a lot of people. You know what I'm trying to say?
Like in the black community, particularly with mental health and therapy.
Right.
Oh, that nigga crazy. You know, he has certain like stigmas and shit, maybe. Yeah. I get you on that. Well, I guess we know who we're talking about then, right? Dun dun dun, Mayo. I'm joking, woman. Psych. No. But I think, you know, it's code switching.
Right, so you're only speaking to a certain group of people then.
But even though I'm black and I went to therapy, you're black. I mean, you may be going
I
to
do
Just
wanna
because you
also-
went doesn't mean everybody.
Agreed. You know,
Everybody-
so if we play the margins, bro, the numbers don't even matter at the end of the day.
They don't.
I
They
guess
don't.
what matters is that it exists. And I have come on to a more empathetic side, you know, of acknowledging that some people do need these, right? And I don't want to be disrespectful about that because, you know, there's people who do need help and they are our loved ones, you know, as well. These are people in our community.
I think that also, okay, here's the other thing about therapy is that you don't have to be mentally ill to benefit from therapy. Therapy does not solve your problems. It just guides you in being able to think about yourself and your feelings.
If they're good.
Ideally. This is an ideal form of therapy. This is how good therapists work, right? It's not about getting you drugs. It's not about it's helping you help yourself. Essentially, is what the therapist's job is to
They
do.
want to work themselves out of business.
Basically.
got a good
And
therapist.
so I think everybody can benefit for it. But I do also want to talk about the fact that while I am empathetic to any and all mental illnesses, it provides reasoning, but it doesn't change the impact of your actions.
Oh, yeah. Some
It
people use
does
that as
not
like an
absolve
excuse.
you of accountability.
Well,
so I can
society's
be
leaning
like, I
towards that way.
screamed at you and fucking punched you in the face because I was having a panic attack.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I was having a panic
Uh-huh.
attack. It gives you a reason of why it happened. Doesn't change the fact I punched you in the fucking face.
You know, because
Like,
that's
that's on me. That's my accountability.
consequentialist, right? Do you remember Tim? I cheated because I was emotional. You know?
Yeah, it's like, well, sorry you're crying. You still fucking cheated. Like,
You know? And like I agree with that 1,000,000,000%, you know. So if we know that and the people and whoever's in those modes can consciously be aware of that component.
so how are you judging it?
Well, I think the nature of human conception is a judgment, because judgment and understanding are on the same tree but two different branches.
Right, but I'm saying, like, you meet someone and they're like, I'm bisexual and depressed, and you're judging them and being like, well, you're not doing the work. How are you making that judgment?
Well,
How
I
you
gotta-
know?
I'm gonna talk to her more, you know, because like first I'm gonna think, you know, well, do you want dick to fill the void or pills?
Oh, my Lord.
Right? Dick or pills. You know, either you find happiness at the end of this pill bottle, at the end of this dick. The modern woman, 2022.
So I'm gonna bring it back to something where you said a few times is that people are not doing the work.
Some people
and I
aren't.
think that specifically, I would disagree that people aren't doing work, but I think the work is such a vague term
Okay,
that
their best work.
98%
Their
of
best
people
work.
don't know what the work they should be doing is. Because what the fuck is this meaning in life? Do we have some overarching, God gave you this work to do, to be like, you know what I'm saying? That's like, we're not baked in knowing this shit.
I'm glad that you brought this up.
And you can't say work through your trauma if you don't even recognize the fact that you have trauma.
Exactly. And so that's where I look at is like there are things that you can do to improve yourself and to make yourself do like be in a better frame of mind. You can go outside every day. You can at least like make sure that you take a shower, that you know, cleaning yourself, spending little times on it, meditate, you know what I'm saying? Eating 3 meals a day, exercising. These are real things that you can do, and there are the things that, but that's not going to solve everything for everybody. And so just like when somebody is sick and they be like, well, be healthy. What the fuck does that mean? I'm already sick.
Those are very important points. I think one thing that can give people that answer, because, you know, nobody necessarily knows the meaning to life completely, but that's where purpose comes in. You know, I really do believe that, at least for myself, and I've been living my life this way lately. If I do certain things with a sense of purpose, whatever I'm going through, you know, whatever sensation I'm feeling, at some point, no matter how long it takes me, I can at least start to make a process of understanding those things within me, you know, because I have purpose, you know, or like some type of closure, you know, like, you know what, you know, my purpose is to do this and this, support my family, be this, you know, something bigger than myself. Purpose. And I feel like a lot of people, they're not walking around with purpose. So when they feel like, no, people are walking around with purpose, but we battle with purpose, and purpose is such a thing. Like, you know, I feel like there's two things lately I've been really trying to safeguard for me personally: my sense of purpose and my gratitude. You know, and with me doing that, I have unlocked a new level of optimism in myself, you know, through certain situations in certain mental states. Like, yes, I feel those feelings. I experience those feelings. Yes, my cousin died. I understand it. You know, I feel it. Like, damn, you're the closest cousin that I got. You know, coming from a family of rejects. But you know what? Your death is not in vain. Let me use it. Let me get a little bit better. You know, fuck it, right? You know, let me push a little bit harder towards my goals, because now I know that I can go just like that too. Nigga, if you can go, I can go.
I just feel like I wouldn't feel a type of way if someone didn't have purpose in their life, or didn't want to have purpose, or some type of
Purpose is to be happy.
You know, some type of will or drive. You know, that's just not for me to decide. It's all a personal thing. Like, why? What effect? Like, why should I be concerned?
And like, purpose lead into a midlife crisis for a lot of people, because
the lack of purpose.
Not even, because they'll have their purpose and they've been grinding for it for years, decades. For a lot of times, people who have like midlife crises, especially on a more successful side of things, right? They get to their point, they reach their purpose, they lose their purpose, because their whole identity is built off one thing,
right?
That they didn't take that work in finding yourself. And so, yes, while finding your purpose is great to alleviate symptoms and to help you find yourself in a lot of things, and like, that is the answer for a lot of people. And like, I agree with that, but that's not like an entire.
I don't think people are seeing purpose in a way that they should be seeing purpose.
Right, but
purpose is not a concrete thing.
How is that for you to say though? I don't get that.
I think you're basing it off of what you think.
Like, it leads to different avenues.
How can you say that about somebody else?
I mean, in reality, I can only speak for myself.
Right.
So this is my advice.
But you're saying that like, this is the work that needs to be done for people.
Like, whenever we take the path of least resistance, that's when we're most likely to become lost.
I don't think that's true.
You're still projecting.
I mean, maybe I am, but I guess we will see when it's said and done, right? But even then, it is still relative to what that person values.
That means you're still going to be measuring that other person's progress and purpose and whatnot. It's just like, what?
Also,
like,
don't need to fetishize struggle.
For example, because this hits close to home for me, my younger brother, you know, 19, 20, you know, good kid.
He has his own autonomy.
He has his own freedom.
You can only do as much as you're capable of doing to push him in the direction that you want him to go.
At the end of the day, he makes his own choices, right? Agreed, right? But if we have a common dream, at least from my understanding, of taking care of our family, at least financially, and being there, there's going to be certain sacrifices that's going to be needed upon us, right? So based off that point, if that changed, then we have a different conversation, right? It has to be something bigger than yourself, and your purpose can change. You can fail something that you wanted the most, but it shifts. You know, people get caught in the fucking consequentialism, whether they're not achieved or not, when we forget about intrinsic value. The fact that you went after your purpose. What? I didn't become this artist or whatever, or what, I didn't become the president of the United States. But you know what? I thought about it, and maybe I was close, or maybe, I wasn't. But the fact that I was on the journey towards it, I learned something, I felt something, the experience added to my life, maybe, like that's how I'm seeing it, personally. I'm salvaging, from the rebels. What was that term we was talking about of that video, bro? You have shown us earlier, bro.
Today, yeah. Anti-fragility is basically when you bounce back from hard times and it comes back stronger. So post-traumatic growth. It's the opposite of post-traumatic stress, or PTSD is PTSG, is post-traumatic growth. So you grow from
your traumas, your hard times, maybe.
Yeah, hard times, trauma, and you don't. Yeah, that's basically what it.
So it's like that last season of Young Justice where they introduce like situations that can kill these kids and it gives them power.
Yeah, I mean that's an example.
But it's also like positive trauma, whatever we were talking about a long time ago.
Right, but then you know what they do? They, in the series, they gather up all these kids, kidnap them, traffic them, and then introduce them to trauma.
Well, fuck them kids.
Yeah, because in the shows, trauma is what sparks their superpower.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, and
Plus, we view trauma negatively all the time.
Huh?
What if trauma is not one of those things of human comprehension of good and positive? We put so many things in those categories of ethics and morals. Is this good? Is that positive? And we base it off of our sensation, pain, pleasure, suffering, senses. You're supposed to have them all triggered, in my opinion, and you confront those triggers.
Well, let's fill in the blank on there. Like on traumas, like for example, like if somebody got raped, would we ever look at that and be like, that's a positive rape?
I mean, in society you can't, because of like where we are, like socially, it's very taboo to say that.
I think morally it is as well.
Yeah. Okay, you talk about the moral relativism thing. You tell me about that shit. So
if you want to bring up the question, let's go down the road.
Let's go down the road. Let's walk it. Follow the yellow brick road.
What if, I'm a young woman and I was raped when I was younger?
Yeah, why you got to be a young woman? Just be a young man and use your example.
With that being said, you can take certain parts of empowerment from the broken pieces once you pick up the broken pieces. Yes, you were a victim. What are you going to do about it? Yes, you feel these feelings. How can you make it serve you? That's where I am at in my life. A lot of people, they lay in the rubble of victims because it's so heavy.
You seem to take these good concepts of uplifting people who've been through traumatic experiences through empowerment, but then you say most people don't do this and most people just cry.
Right.
So that's what
Is that not true?
I think that is not true, and I think
beyond
it's
not
that.
Accurate.
That's why it keeps hitting people hard, is because the way that you are approaching this in communication with other people will prevent you from actually achieving this idea that you can uplift people through empowerment. You're not going to be able to uplift a lot of people through empowerment if you assume that most people aren't receptive to it.
Fair point. However, no, you don't. I'm not uplifting nobody.
Yeah, I know.
You uplift yourself. You're in it. You gotta do it yourself.
Okay, Mr. America with the individualism.
Capitalism right there.
I'm telling you, your family can only do so much. Your loved ones can only do so much. At the end of the day, it's just fucking you in a fucking mirror.
That there isn't that level. They always say that there is no level of personal responsibility, and I think it's just.
But it's being undervalued.
Least resistance, and so when you're saying the path of least resistance, right, and saying that choosing that in the post-traumatic growth, yes, that is something that you can look. If something already happened, you gotta look on the bright side of that shit. You can't just say that this happened, I'm fucked forever, my life is over.
Even though people do.
That's saying that yes, people do, but that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that there's a difference between that and going after that shit. Ain't no going through life on hard mode just means there's a better chance you could die earlier and game over. Literally. You know what I'm saying? We see people who is rich as fuck, who ain't going through shit, that they ended up rich as fuck. You know what I'm saying? They didn't go through any struggle. They're going to be like, oh, I had to eat ramen once. Oh my God, it was terrible. In the same way as like looking at it, like, would you rather, not even just using your brother example, I'm just saying like anybody you care about, would you rather see them rich and hate themselves, or more like just where we are now and they love themselves?
I don't think that's that's if they love themselves. We don't know. That is such.
That's the hypothetical
That
I'm
is
giving
such an assumption.
That's the hypothetical
That's
I'm giving
such a
you.
fucking assumption.
That's the hypothetical
That,
I'm
you know,
giving you. Deal with the hypothetical.
Assume that you have to help the people around you.
Yeah.
We'll let you know.
Well, actually, if
Won't
you're a
you
good
answer-
person,
Answer the question. You run it for you say that's a big assumption.
What was
Like
your
I'm
question?
saying, the hypothetical I'm giving you is either somebody who's rich and hates themselves, or someone who's just like lower class. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that they homeless like that. 'Cause
Oh,
there
you're
is a basic level of roof
living
over your
within
head.
your means.
You know what I'm saying? But they love themselves. Which would you rather have?
I mean, obviously the person
For someone that you love.
obviously the person who loves themselves, but I don't get how that coincides with people making the psychological choice of doing the fucking work with the trauma. How does that coincide?
Because this is talking even with purpose too, right? Where you're so fixated on somebody's purpose. Where you're so fixated on
talking about
if you don't have
materialistic
purpose, you're
shit.
getting something that they're,
Talking about materialistic shit, like bro, that example you just gave.
Both examples you gave before were materialistic. They were both goal oriented in the fact of career, just so you're aware.
When?
You gave two examples earlier. One
About
of your
myself?
examples for purpose was to be able to take care of the family financially. The other one was to be able to do what you want in your career. Both of them were financial. Both of them were capitalistic. Both of them are engaging with this idea that you put on later, which has to do with like an individualistic society where you have to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, where it's only you and you alone. I think it's all interesting that the way that you talk is all kind of connected.
I think I was trying to communicate that as more spiritual. Actually, the financial part gives you more time to invest in yourself. You don't got to clock in, and put in your fucking actual hours to pay bills.
You give me one that doesn't have to do with capitalism.
I
Give me a
mean,
purpose that doesn't have to do with
I'm literally telling you, if you actually think about what I'm saying, if I can get to a place financially where my family doesn't have to work, my mom doesn't have to work, maybe she can investigate herself more. It's not about the fucking money, it's about the time.
The money is intrinsically tied to that. Can you give me one though that doesn't even touch it, that doesn't even mention it?
Listen. If you don't got to work in institutions, yes, the universe will take you away whenever it's going to take you away. But if you don't got to invest your 8 hours a day working a fucking job, what can you do with those 8 hours?
I have a different question for you because you're still on the work thing.
No. Because you guys aren't understanding. The money is not important necessarily to me. Y'all know me. I don't care about fucking money. But what I care about is the time it provides. If you get to a certain place, if you don't got to clock in your hours, you can investigate yourself more. You can go after your dreams more. Do you know there's? So what I'm saying, it's
can
not
we be honest
materialistic.
about the sense where it's
not
maybe
materialistic.
1.3% of people are
It's
ever
not
going to have that in their
materialistic,
life?
but it's still engaging in capitalism.
You can recognize that's an element there. But also, if that's the only element of self-actualization and purpose through that shit, is having time, is having doing this right there, that's what we're saying is like the narrowness of this thing, right? Is if we're talking about, this all started with mental illness, and we're saying you got to do the work. Okay, from doing the work, you have to find the purpose, find financial freedom. Yes, these are good things. These are good things to pursue, but it's not the end-all, be-all. Right? Because otherwise you're saying
Nobody
that the 98% of people who are not be able to get to that financial freedom, like even this is how we say, this is the ramification of what you're saying. The vast majority of people who are still going to have to clock in every day, who are still going to be slaves to that clock, that most people out here are they doing that. If they're out on that shit, they're a failure and they don't have purpose in their life. They're not getting there, right? And so that's what breeds into more people's depression. That's what breeds into more people's nihilism, because they're seeing this. They're seeing Instagram people looking like they ain't doing shit, and they're living all this fancy-ass life, doing rented-ass cars and shit, and the people are bought into the lifestyle of others, and seeing people who are quote-unquote business people at 24 selling Bitcoin off this shit on pyramid schemes, bro. It's all tied together because people are so focused on, like, yes, financial can do a lot. If you even get that and you get to the financial part and your mind is fucked up, you're gonna probably kill yourself like most of these people who are rich doing too right now.
I mean, I want to respond to this point. I do agree. no matter what, you're gonna need spiritual defense for anything you do in your life, right? So you're preaching to the choir on that. However, I will state again, it's not really about the money, it's about what it can do. Of giving those people the extra time to deal with their traumas. Give people the extra time to spend more time with their family, with like doing what they need to do. Because society got us, distracted, trying to live, to eat and pay a check. I don't even like money, but I know the game that we're in. If we're gonna act like we're not in that fucking game, then like cool.
No one's saying that.
No, well, some people act like it because there's winners and losers out here. Like straight the fuck up. Like I'm gonna be honest, bro. You saying that you would not mind, having someone around you or judging people or something. No, yeah, have someone around you who didn't have drive or purpose, bro. I would, bro. If you don't give a fuck about certain things that mean something to you with like deep conviction, bro, I don't want you around me. Literally, that's think about it. That's just contagious. Because you know why? It's like some people want something more in their life, a little bit of ambition, bro. Like
I never said I would enjoy being around a person who did. I just said it doesn't bother me, or it's not my concern. It's just like you do you. That doesn't mean that
loved ones. How about if your brother, bro, didn't want to do shit with his life, bro? Will you really be okay with that?
If he's happy, bro, then yeah. He's happy.
I feel like it's not just about that one person's happiness. It's about everyone's happiness.
Why does your ambition have to be hindered on other people?
Well, not hindered, but it is connected. If you're
Can't you just live for yourself?
You don't live for yourself.
Oh.
You don't. People like to think that they do. Nobody here lives in a fucking vacuum, do they? Nobody here.
No. I mean, everybody does interact with other people.
You know what I'm saying? Because you're talking personal responsibility. Now we're going here. No one lives in a vacuum, right? And that's what we're saying about this thing too. Is like, yes, there is personal responsibility there, but to disconnect everything else and just to end it all on, well, you need to do the work.
No matter what, it starts and ends there.
Can I give you my synonym now?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, my bad.
So you were talking about purpose, and I think one of the reasons why I've yet to come across purpose in a therapy setting is that there's a lot of connotations to it and a lot of stuff going on when it comes to the word purpose. But I think that having goals is really nice.
I agree with you. I think it's necessary.
I don't think it needs to be like huge goals. I don't think your goal needs to be president of the United States. If your goal for tomorrow is to get up, eat 3 meals, go to work, come home, like that's goals. Like if your goal tomorrow is to wake up and you haven't woken up in days, right? So your goal is to just wake up and like talk to somebody. That's a goal.
I'm on a bandwagon.
I think you can start small. You can build up. I think then if you get in the habit of making more goals, it'll be easier and you'll be able to reach farther with your goals. Yeah. But I think having goals is a lot easier to grapple with sometimes than having purpose because of the spiritual aspect that comes in with having purpose. That can be kind of hard for people. Yeah. So I think maybe we start with goals.
Not everybody, Tashawn.
Yeah. I don't think everybody is to the place, and I don't think everybody is spiritually oriented, which is odd, but okay.
I mean, with this proliferation of technology, our emotional intelligence have waned. And,
I don't think that's the case. I think it's just more scattered.
Okay. I mean, maybe both can be true. A negative and a negative can exist.
That question about if you're really cool with hanging out with somebody or even somebody in your family who really ain't trying to do nothing. And I would say yes for the one example is that while I do want them to, like, I think there's two different things. I think there's one where it's the base human needs. Are you able to put food in your stomach? Are you able to have a roof over your head or something like that and like be able to kind of function at some level? I think that those, just based off the base level of Maslow's pyramid, right? Those are like I want to make sure you're doing that. You do that and you're at least at the base level of functioning and shit and you're able to figure out your shit, figure it out. Because there are enough people in this world who are so tied into workaholic sense, into hustle culture, into grind culture to the point that they are always looking for a mountain and never realizing the beauty of where they're at. And so part of the thing that I enjoy with people sometimes who I'm like, you know what, maybe they're not going to do all this crazy shit, but they ground me. They're living in the moment. I can enjoy this moment with them. And, you know, we can have conversations and maybe they will do something with this, but I can't control them. Just like it would be, I don't want somebody being like, well, because I talk to him, I know for 100% sure he's going to listen to everything I say and do exactly what I say. That makes me a fucking slave. I think that our definition of accomplishing is so narrow. Not to say everything is because of capitalism, but that is kind of. And I think it's better to kind of think outside of that while still trying to encourage people to do better.
Yeah, you guys make great points about having individual goals that fits the context of that person and their capacity. So if it's just waking up and eating a meal for the anorexic person, or if it's just waking up and loving yourself for a very insecure person, or if it's about getting done all the schoolwork and going to the gym for whoever, right? It's the context of those goals. And so I agree with that, and you guys have helped open my mind on that front. Furthermore, I will also say goals are important because I do believe life, you know, you can almost boil it down to two S's, in my opinion. Struggle, striving. And it's a perpetual motion of both. And we get caught with trying to measure these efforts, like these things, that we do lose track of the actual moment. We do lose track of the journey, which would help me a lot in my trauma when I was going to therapy, because I was so fixated on, damn, I lost this person, I was super in love, will ever love again, I'm hurting, I don't even know how to understand it. Then at some point, you know, I read that book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and this piece on logotherapy and changing perspective of like shifting it, like, you know, what if the guy who lost his mom is crying every day to the therapist, and one day the therapist asks the guy who lost his mom, well, what if you died before your mom? And what if she had to endure your death? You know, and maybe he starts crying a little bit more because, you know what, yeah, I am living for this, you know. So I think purpose has got to be a concrete thing. We can shift it on our situations, you know. So if this goal doesn't work here, it doesn't pan out, I feel like it's something that should be safeguarded and you can shift it, but let's not lose it. And I just want to say my final comment that I didn't mean to undermine anybody who has personal mental warfare in their consciousness and in their lives of their own independent struggles. You know, I can't even imagine. I guess I'm just trying to show a ladder, because I'm on this ladder, but I know that everybody has different ladders. And I guess this what works for me, and you know, do what works for you.
Prescribing goals for people, or thinking that they kind of need to fit into certain things, is very dangerous. I mean, I think, and it's really not effective. It's really not. Like, let's be honest. Like, there are a lot of people who be like immigrating to this country, and their parents be like, "You're going to be a doctor." Some of them are. A lot of them are not. Like, and because that's been prescribed to them, and that's this success, and that's how you're going to set up the family. And that's not a bad goal. That's not a bad aspiration to have. It's not saying people shouldn't be a doctor and people shouldn't try to look out and set up for their families. That's good. But there's, like, success can mean a lot of different things. And at the end of the day, I don't even feel like a job is necessarily a bad thing. I think that a lot of the time we look at jobs as bad things because labor is corrupted and people aren't able to do things that they enjoy. They feel like there aren't any other options. There aren't as many societal safety nets. There aren't many other choices. And so the working relationship becomes very coercive. I'm not going to go into a big capitalism thing here, but I think that with that, like, it's good to strive for things beyond, but I also think that there is beauty in just enjoying what you have, being grateful for what you have. And I think, like, not like, you don't gotta be Superman. Like, like Clark Kent probably living a pretty damn good life.
Live within your own means. I definitely agree, bro. Everybody's purpose is contextual, to them. So I encourage everybody to continuously search for the purpose, and if it shifts, do what you can to adapt to it, to live your best truth. And with that being said, we are Perspectives from the Void.